All right, sitting next to me today is a 2018 Infiniti Q50 3.0T Sport rear-wheel drive. Today I'm going to be bringing you a review and showing you everything that there is to love and hate about this car and if you should buy one used or not. So let's hop right into the video. Now, as for the engine for the Infiniti Q50, this is a twin-turbo V6 that makes 300 horsepower and 295 pound-feet of torque, and that all leads out through a 7-speed automatic transmission. Now, I know 300 horsepower doesn't sound like tons for a twin-turbo V6, but let me tell you what, this car is not slow. Now, moving on to the exterior of the Q50, I gotta say, I think this is a pretty good looking vehicle, especially from the front. Now, the car is finished in Hagen Blue Metallic, and it's a little bit weird for this car. I'd rather have it in blue, black, or a gray color. Now, starting up front here, you have a nice aggressive front end with these aggressive sharp looking headlights, and you have LED headlights as well. And then you have this pretty sharp looking grille right here with the large Infiniti badge, and then you have some kind of low profile splitter up front with these fog lights and these turn signals right here as well. But yeah, the front end looks pretty good, and then you also have those gray accents around the blue paint. And moving over to the side, you have these standard 19-inch wheels with these brake calipers. You can't see it now, but they do say Infiniti on them, and the brakes do look pretty large. And then, of course, you have a 3.0T badge to signify that this has the twin-turbo V6. You also have a lot of chrome accents on the outside, including on the door handles and around the windows right here. Then you also have this black piano plastic right here that does attract some fingerprints when you touch it. Not that you'll be touching it a lot. But as for the side profile for this car, of course it does look like a sporty sedan. It doesn't look bland. But yeah, it has a good profile, and it all comes to this point back here where it kind of slopes into the trunk. And you do get a good look at all the body lines and the haunches for the fenders. And moving back here, you have these pretty large exhaust tips. I'm really surprised they're this big now. These are dirty. These are supposed to be chrome. They're not supposed to be this black soot looking color. But you do have more chrome accents back here and some sharp looking taillights as well. And then as for the trunk space back here, you have 14 cubic feet of cargo space in the trunk, and you also have a pass-through to allow you to get to the back seats. Now, you also do have a small little painted diffuser down here that probably has no effect on the aero of this car, but is just for looks, and it makes the rear end look a little more sporty than it is. I do think this rear end is more sportier looking than its competitors like the 3 Series from the time and the C-Class from the time. In fact, overall, I think the car looks more put together from a 2018 BMW 3 Series, but not as luxurious as a C-Class from 2018, but it does look more sporty than a C-Class from 2018. Now, something I find really weird on the exterior, again, is with this window chrome piece right here, that it kind of goes into this little S shape right here that kind of looks like a point of view of a highway. You start right here and then you drive off into the sunset. It's an interesting shape, and that carries over to the entire shape of the door as well. So sitting in the Q50, you get a lot of nice materials in here. The steering wheel is a nice shape and is leather wrapped as well. The seats are pretty cushy, and you get a lot of adjustment in them, as well as thigh support, backwards, forward, up, down, and your back and lumbar, of course. And then as for space in here, the center console is not the largest in the world. You get 2 USB Type A's, and then you also get an aux jack in here with a video output right there. That's a little weird. As for the glove box, you get a decent amount of space as well, and it's lined in this nice felt material, which feels nice to touch. As for up the dashboard, you do get a lot of nice materials as well. Now, as for technology in here, you do get blind spot monitoring. As for the backup camera, you do have a 360-degree camera, though it's not the highest quality, and a backup camera, which also isn't the best quality in the world. But it's nice to have those features. Now, something I think is really weird about the Infiniti lineup for the Q50 and the Q60, which has almost the same exact interior, is that you have this split screen view. And this screen up here for 2018 does not have the ability to have Apple CarPlay on it. So you just have this navigation screen here, and it's responsive enough, but it's not very good looking. Now, as for the screen down here that's a little smaller, this one is pretty responsive, and you do get apps and everything in here. And you have little buttons down here that take you directly to the audio, take you back to the menu, and take you to your climate controls, which, again, is really nice that they implement these things here. And you can control your climate control outside of the screen, which eliminates the fact you having to take your eyes off the road for an extended period of time to go turn down your AC. But like I said, you have your climate controls right here. Heated seats, you have automatic heated seats in here, and then you have 3 other stages as well. And your gear selector right here. This little turn wheel right here is how you control the navigation screen up here, and you can also view your cameras up here if you wanted as well. Okay, as for your drive modes, you get personal, which is kind of like individual mode in BMWs, sport, sport plus, standard, eco, and snow. Has a lot of drive modes for a car like this. You also have a sunroof up here just in case you want to look at the sky. Now the roof line seems to rake down in the front and the back, and it kind of takes away from some headroom. It's not bad up here, but in the back you will see that the headroom is a little minimal. But yeah, that's the front seats. As for the gauge cluster, it's nothing special. You get to be able to see your driving age, your tire pressure, engine oil, the car warnings, and your range and fuel economy, which is normal. And then for other stuff right here, you do have a 12-volt socket if you want to connect a little outlet thing right there. Now, what I do like is there's not a lot of cheap, scratchy plastics. Of course, down here on the door bins, there is some, but for the most part, you have this piano black trim that goes around, or this aluminum trim that goes around, or leather, which is nice. All right, hopping into the back seats of this vehicle. It is comfortable, and if you see right here, there is so much leather in between the back seat and the door that looks like a bolster. This doesn't really hold you in place that much, but there's so much leather right here that gaps the seat to the door. But other than that, the seats are comfortable back here, but this is that decreased headroom I was talking about. If you're sitting straight up, you will end up hitting your head if you're over like 5'10", especially people who are 6 foot will hit their head right here. You also get a lot of nice materials back here as well, with this weirdly stitched leather right here that has different sections. But more of that aluminum trimming and some scratchy plastics, of course. But you do have climate vents back here. Decently sized backseat pockets. They seem to be a little hard to get stuff in and out of, but you do get some, and scratchy plastic on the back. Now, as for console room back here, you have 2 cup holders. Nice soft leather on here, and then you have a pass-through for the trunk right here, just in case you want to slide skis through or anything like that. That is basically it for the back seats. Nothing special. What's cool is you do get automatic windows, so you don't have to hold that switch down, and they go all the way down. Now, something that's weird is you have this little thing right here. This window right here does not go all the way down. It doesn't move at all, but this larger one does. I wish the entire thing was connected together. That way you could get more airflow, because it does feel a little claustrophobic back here with the low roof line. So driving the Q50. Ooh. Oh yeah, it's got some punch. Wow. Oh, okay. So one big issue I just noticed is the transmission is a little slow sometimes. I just tried to upshift from 4th to 5th gear, and it took about a second for the transmission to respond. But there's also times like I'm going to downshift. Oh, see, that was instant. That was instant. Down. Wow. This engine and this powertrain put down power really, really well. Red line's at 7,000 RPMs, but peak power is at 6,400 RPMs. So you'll never need to go that high. And you have your torque available between 1,500 RPMs and 5,200 RPMs in this vehicle as well. Now, like I said, you have all of those drive modes: Sport, Sport Plus, Snow, Eco, Standard, and Personal. I just have it in Sport Plus right now. And I gotta say, I'm surprised. This is faster than the C300 that I drove not too long ago. Passing power is good, but I gotta say, though the steering is tight, it feels a little loosey-goosey around corners, and it kind of gives you a sketched out feeling when you start to go around bends at higher speeds under acceleration, which can be a little disconcerting because a sports car luxury car if you're going to drive it sporty, you want the ability to do crazy stuff with it, but you should not have a dead feeling. There should not be this much play, and it's a little light for me. I know some people out there want lighter steering, but when you're going that fast, you don't want light. You want responsive, and you want feedback in it. Let's see if that transmission still downshifts very slowly. Yeah, about a second to respond, but that one's instant. It's quick. It's really quick. It's faster than my EcoBoost Mustang is. Again, like I said, it's faster than the C-Class, and I haven't driven a 2018 3 Series. But those are its competitors in price. So I think Infiniti did a good job with the powertrain in this vehicle. The transmission's just a little slow and a little lackluster when you're downshifting and upshifting at times, but sometimes it's also really quick and snappy. Putting it back into automatic mode chooses the gear for you. So if you're just looking for a fast ride where you don't have to do much other than put your foot on the gas pedal, then yeah, the transmission does okay. Sometimes it does have some issues deciding which gear it wants to be in, and you'll be cruising around and it won't be in 7th gear to give you that gas mileage. It'll be in 6th gear for whatever reason when you don't have your foot down on the gas pedal and it's just cruising even with the cruise control on. It'll have some issues finding the gear it wants to be in. Now, as for the fuel economy, I'm getting 22.1 miles per gallon average, which is combined is lower than what it's supposed to be combined. But I've also been a little harder on this car than I usually am when I'm just cruising around due to this being a review. But hopefully up here we get to go around some more twisty turns so I can really show you what this thing's like to put around a corner. Yeah, it just requires a little more steering input than I would like. And sometimes that steering input can be kind of untrustworthy because it feels way too light and there's not enough feedback. I want a consistent amount of feedback as I'm turning into a corner. I don't want nothing and then all of a sudden it's like, oh gosh, I'm making a turn all the way through. As for comfort while driving the car, let's go ahead and put it back into normal mode here. And it lightens up. The throttle goes back to being super light. And it calms down. The seats are comfortable, like I said. It's not like it has adjusting suspension. So that's nothing that's going to change. But the suspension is firm, but not in a bad way. It's firm the way you'd want it to be while being sporty, and it doesn't float. But it also is soft enough to go over most tiny bumps, though you will feel it a little once you start going over speed bumps or dipping into any potholes like that. Invisibility is good as well. Has blind spot monitors right here, like I said. That can be a tiny bit dim, but other than that, the mirrors are a good size. In the windshield, in the rear, those are good sizes as well. No complaints. I'm going to drop it back into Sport mode, Sport Plus mode. Engine RPMs raise and the throttle definitely gets a little more responsive. But the transmission's also not in a hurry to get you going fast. So if you just lightly put your foot on the throttle, it's not going to downshift 2 gears and throw you into the road. It still remains pretty calm unless you do put your foot down and let it take off. Get around some of these twisty turns right here. Woo! Yeah, it's just way too light because I'm fine with cars being dead on center for just a tiny bit, but again, all of that steering power comes on at once and it kind of is like, oh gosh, where's the car gonna go? So, and it doesn't have adjustable steering modes. It does adjust with the drive modes, but the steering needs to be a little more concise because it can be a little weird. And that's a common complaint. I was reading a Car and Driver article about it where they were complaining about that. And I was like, oh, no big deal. And I went out and drove it in a straight line. It tracks well, but then I was just really started putting the car through its paces. And I was just like, oh, what's happening? All right, and that is the Infiniti Q50 3.0T Sport rear-wheel drive. So for used market, these go from anywhere between $25,000 to $30,000, depending on the mileage you're looking at. You're going to be looking more closer towards $30,000 if you're looking for a car with under 30 1,000 miles. But honestly, I think it's a great looking car. I think it has plenty of luxury features in it for what the price offers you. And yeah, it's a decent car from Infiniti, which sometimes has screwed up before, and they are owned by Nissan, and Nissan products aren't always the best. Anyways, if you like this video, hit that like button down below, and if you want to see more from us, go ahead and subscribe, and I will see you all in the next video.